All right. So completing the square. I will say that in past years, this has been a lesson that people have either loved or hated. It's kind of one or the other. I think if you listen and really pay attention, it makes a lot of sense. But there is some steps involved. And I'm going to kind of start in the middle of the process and get to the full process on the back page. So here we go. First little bit there is review. So we want to do x plus 4 squared. So if you remember, what I did with that was I rewrote that as x plus 4 times x plus 4. And then you FOILed. You get x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Combine those like terms and you get your final trinomial of x squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay, now take you back to what we did in the last lesson. Why were we not able to use square roots to solve? And notice I'm taking that and putting it right here. Okay, why we're not able to use square roots? Because there's a b term, right? If there's a b term, you can't use square roots. Well, couldn't we rewrite x squared plus 8x plus 8 plus 16? I mean, we started with this. Couldn't I rewrite it as x plus 4 squared? Right? I mean, those two things are equal. We just showed that. Okay, that trinomial, x squared plus 8x plus 16, is called a perfect square trinomial. Why? Because it can be written as a binomial squared. Right? Therefore, we now have x plus 4 squared equals 0. Okay, now we can take the square root of both sides and solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit here. Never mind, don't need to. You'll see what that looks like here in a little bit. We'll go ahead and clear everything. Solve each of these quadratics. These are both set up to be solved using completing the square. All right, so I'm ignoring the 36 for right now. But what I'm going to look at is x squared plus 6x plus 9. What number times itself can give me 9 and add to 6? Well, it's 3 and 3, right? And I'm just going to add the equals 36 there at the end. Okay, just make sure you understand what I just did there. I factored it, but I knew that it had to be the same factor. So x plus 3 and x plus 3. I'm going to rewrite that as x plus 3 squared. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And that cancels the radical and the squared. So I'm going to have x plus 3. Now, make sure you catch this. Square root of 36 is plus or minus 6. Now we have to include that plus or minus 6. Okay. And then we subtract 3. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get x equals negative 3, right? I subtracted 3, so it's negative 3. And then plus or minus 6. So that gives me two answers. It gives me negative 3 plus 6, and it gives me negative 3 minus 6. Get used to doing that. You're going to be doing that several times until the end of the year. Okay, so negative 3 plus 6 and negative 3 minus 6 gives me my two answers. Negative 3 plus 6 is 3, and negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9. So 3 and negative 9. Okay, do the second one. What number times itself gives me 25 and adds to negative 10? Negative 5 and negative 5. And so I'm going to rewrite that as x minus 5 squared equals 9. We take the square root of both sides, cancels, and I get x minus 5 equals plus or minus 3. Now I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I'm going to go over here. I get x equals positive 5 plus or minus 3. Get my two answers. I get 5 plus 3 and 5 minus 3. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay. And I'm going to leave those there because I'm going to refer back to those here in a little bit. Okay. So what happens if, or when, it's going to be more the case, when the trinomial is not a perfect square trinomial? In both 1 and 2, it started with a perfect square trinomial. Well, what we need to do is complete the square. And hence the name of these notes, completing the square. So how do we do that? So make x squared plus 12x minus 13 into a perfect square trinomial. First, we want to move the 13, the c value, to the other side of the equal sign. So just add it to the other side. In this case, it's add. Sometimes you'll be subtracting it, and leave a blank spot there. Now we need to figure out which number goes on the line to make this a perfect square trinomial. To figure this out, think about which number adds with itself. Now you might be thinking, well, normally we focus on multiplying. You're right, but we don't have a number to multiply to. We're trying to figure that number out. So we got to use our middle term, which is the numbers that add, if they add to get to 12x. Okay. Think about which numbers add, which number adds with itself to get 12x. And the nice thing is those numbers must be the same since we're making a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so what number is that? The number that adds with itself is 6x, right? Or, well, it's 6. 6 is the number, but it's not the number that goes on the line. That's the number that I need to think about. Then in bold there, you have to square this number. Don't forget that step. And you get 36 on the line. So 36 goes on the line. Why? Okay. Look back at 1 and 2. I told you I was going to do that. 3 and 3 add to 6, right? But I don't see 3 written here. That's where the line goes. Where does that number come from? 3 times 3. Look over at the other one. -5 and -5. That adds to -10. But you don't see -5 written here. You see 25. How did I get that? You do -5 times -5. You get 25. So 6 is the number that goes here, right? And to get the number that goes on the line, I do 6 times 6 and get 36. Okay. We'll go ahead and delete that and move to the back page, but we're going to continue with that idea. So pick up where we left off there. Now we can't just add a random number to one side of the equal sign. So we had the number was 36 here, right? Can't just randomly add 36 to one side. To keep things balanced, you have to add that number to the other side of the equal sign as well. So 36 goes here as well. So you're going to see what it looks like on numbers 1, 2, and 3 at the bottom. Now we simplify both sides of the equal sign. So that's going to be x plus 6 squared, right? If you want to take the step and say x plus 6, feel free. I'm going to jump straight to x plus 6 squared. And then 13 plus 36 is 49. Take the square to both sides. Now, we're picking up kind of where we've already been with numbers 1 and 2 on the front. So that cancels the squared. I get x plus 6 equals plus or minus 7. And then I subtract 6. So I get x equals -6 plus or minus 7. So that's -6 plus 7 and -6 minus 7. -6 plus 7 is 1. -6 minus 7 is -13. All right. Now I'm going to do a problem, or 3 problems really, from start to finish. Okay. So notice how it's equal to 0. That's typically what you'll see. This problem's equal to 0. If we want to complete the square, I have to move c to the other side first. I'm going to go ahead and put plus because that number is never going to be negative. Think about why. Okay. I move c by subtracting it, right? I guess I should probably talk about that. So that's going to be -45 on that side. Okay, I need 2 numbers that Here's what I like to do actually. So you don't forget to square it. I know I'm going to be doing this. Take the sign of the middle term, so it's plus. What number adds with itself to give me 18? 9 and 9. Basically cut 18 in half. Then what goes on the line is 81. 9 times 9 is 81 and 81. And then you can go ahead and simplify negative 45 plus 81. That gives me 36. Now I can rewrite that as x plus 9 squared equals 36. Square root now. I get x plus 9 equals positive or negative 6. Subtract 9, x equals negative 9 plus or minus 6. So negative 9 plus 6 is negative 3. Negative 9 minus 6 is negative 15. Okay. And that's from start to finish. We'll go ahead and clear it for spaces, for space reasons, and move on to number 2. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 180. And then I'm going to rewrite this, x squared minus 24x plus blank equals 180 plus blank. What goes in the blank? Well, I'm going to go ahead and factor. What number times itself gives me negative 24? Negative 12. Okay. And so then to get the number on the line, I do negative 12 times negative 12 and put 144 right here. So 180 plus 144, 324. So I'm going to go ahead and write this as x minus 12 squared. And now square root. So I get x minus 12 equals plus or minus 18. Okay, just type that in the calculator. Most of the time, it's going to be a good number. Okay, there are times when it's not. But for right now, intro to this, it's going to be good numbers. Add 12. I'm going to make a mistake here that a lot of people do make. They'll say plus or minus 12 plus 18. They shift the plus or minus to the wrong number. Okay, don't do that. Make sure you are using the right numbers and the right signs. So 12 is positive, plus or minus 18. So 12 plus 18, 12 minus 18. So 12 plus 18 is 30. 12 minus 18 is negative 6. All right. Looks like a lot of work, but I think, like I said, a lot of people do, it makes sense to a lot of people, and they find that this is actually a pretty good method. So last one, subtract 104. I get x squared plus 20x plus blank equals negative 104 plus blank. I'm going to rewrite this as something plus 10. Hopefully you understand where I'm getting 10, half of 20. 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, and that equals negative 4. I get x plus 10 squared equals negative 4. Square root. Can't take the square root of both sides of a negative. So my answer here is no solutions. Okay, it's still possible. Again, it's a quadratic, which makes a parabola. There are times when this parabola is not going to cross the x-axis, and this is one of those times. That's how it looks with completing the square. Okay. Some tips. Take the time to get the correct number that completes the square. Take the time at the beginning. Okay. Without that number correct, you can't do these problems correctly. Okay. Don't forget to do the plus or minus. Okay. That's going to get you the 2 answers. If you forget the plus or minus, you're only going to get 1 answer. Okay. And keep that sign with the appropriate number. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. So like on where I said I was making that mistake, that's what I'm talking about there. A lot of people make that mistake where they put the plus or minus with the wrong number. Okay. We're gonna go over this. So if you didn't get it, I want you to get it. We'll get it. All right. That's it.